Welcome to 1 Million Cups. There are a lot of new faces, so let me go over a couple of basics. Parking pass. So if anybody parked in the back in the visitor section, that's great. If you parked in the garage, we have parking passes for you. Now to the more fun stuff. 1 Million Cups is a national organization as part of the Kauffman Foundation. It's a nonprofit to help small businesses grow their business. 6% of small businesses get over $100,000 in revenue. So the idea is that we meet every single week. We have one business owner present each week for about 6 to 8 minutes, and then we give them feedback, free feedback, exciting feedback, for 30 to 40 minutes. So as we go through the day, first you'll hear from our presenter, and then you have cards in front of you to write down your thoughts, but obviously ask questions if you need to understand more, give suggestions, ideas, and feedback. That is all very, very welcome. You can follow us. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're very friendly. I would ask if you can turn your phones off. That would be awesome. For now, what I would love to do, this is all volunteer. I have people ask me, who gets paid? Nobody gets paid for any of this. This is all volunteer. So all of our organizers, we come every week, and it's because we love small businesses. So if I can have our organizers come up, just so you can see them. You're welcome to learn how to be an organizer and be more involved. We'll start on the left.
Donnell Johns, a Vision Worldwide Leadership Consulting firm.
Russ McIntosh, Vision Idea Design.
John Rittenberg, cccsolutions.com.
It is helpful to be short in this particular case because the light does not hit my face. Jen Dalton with Brand Mirror.
John Yu with Office Evolution.
And I'm Tony, Channel and Tony Stark today.
Maya Shimendis, Visual Sector.
Thank you, organizers. So organizers do work with our presenters on their presentation. We help them prepare. We don't just throw you into the deep end. One other question or comment. If you have not downloaded the app, how many of you have the app on your phone? Please go ahead and check in on the app. The numbers actually help us get a teeny bit of funding just for things like our pop-up banner and stuff like that. So the more we can count people, the better. You also can provide. Yeah, I have not checked in yet. The more of you that check in, the better. And again, you can use the app to provide feedback. Our sponsors, so our space sponsor today, John, if you can come up.
Yeah, sure. I want to welcome you again to 1 Million Cups at Office Evolution. So we're a co-working space, the space that are here. Behind me, we have fully furnished office space as well. But more than just providing office, we focus on helping small businesses and providing a way for entrepreneurs to get together and building communities in the local area. And that's where we share the same vision with 1 Million Cups, and that's why we're sort of partnering with 1 Million Cups to provide the space for it. So, thank you again for coming. Enjoy the breakfast, coffee, obviously, and we're going to have a great presentation from today. So, thank you.
A lot of people ask, is 1 Million Cups a coffee company? No, we are not. The reason it's 1 Million Cups is because there are 200 1 Million Cup chapters across the country. Every Wednesday morning around coffee, we help a business owner. We can only have coffee if we have a coffee sponsor. So our monthly coffee sponsor, Mark Silverman, if you would come up.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
If you're thinking about being a coffee sponsor, I'd like to tell you what the commitment entails and how hard you have to work. First, you go out and find the best coffee you can find, Cafe Amore in Vienna, Virginia on Church Street, and then you buy 5 pounds of coffee and you give it to John. And then you're done, and then you show up and you get to talk for 2 minutes. So I'd like to say about me, I'm an executive coach. I host a podcast. I just signed 2 new clients yesterday. I asked them before I let them sign up, why are you back for the 3rd round to talk to me? They kicked the tires 3 times before they actually came in and signed up. There are two guys who own a mortgage company that's growing like a weed. And they said, everybody thinks we're really, really successful. We think we've only scratched the surface of what we can accomplish. We need someone in our lives who has a vision and can see us for something way bigger than we can ever imagine. And we know you're that guy. So that's what I do for a living. Thank you.
You are welcome to be a coffee sponsor. We're always looking for more coffee. So as I transition us into our next section, Dave Hillelsohn from DHill Financial will be talking about his business. And I'm super excited because he's also a big supporter of 1 million cups to have him come present.
Awesome. Thanks to all the organizers and certainly our coffee host and location host. It's a pleasure to be able to present to a group that I've come and really love the entrepreneurial journey, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about mine. Jen did emphasize to me again the 6 to 8 minutes. She said it again. It was probably the most clear directive she gave. She also mentioned that you may have index cards in front of you where you can make some notes. I appreciate the person that already completed theirs that said Dave was great. So organized and strategic. Seminar is a great idea, so thank you for that. So just a quick introduction. I started my own retail insurance practice May 16 of 16, not to be specific. And I was a benefactor of some of the things that the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority does as I was under my 3-year wire. Now I'm just past that. That came on the heels of 26 years as an insurance wholesaler. Products get distributed either directly through insurance offices or through independent channels like where I have been the majority of my career. The same John Hancock credentials that people can go and work for, I just gain access to through wholesalers. And I've been in the life and health space. In the 90s, it was impaired risk, people with health problems, some health insurance. I built a long-term care division in a firm and got recruited by a long-term care insurance wholesaling firm where I spent a short 16 years. Transitioning from there, I wanted to start my own retail practice, and just at a stage in my life where I wanted to set my own course, and so to gain access to product, I go to insurance wholesalers in each of the product lines that I work to get best in class, to get access to leverage, advanced knowledge, maybe some backroom case management as well. Licensed around the country, probably closer to 30 states. And in the 3 years, been recognized in Washingtonian as one of the best in the area, voted by my peers. I feel very proud about that. Northern Virginia Magazine recently called to say I'll have the chance to advertise in their publication as one of the best in Northern Virginia, and was voted as a small business of the year by the Northern Virginia, or by the Dulles Chamber of Commerce, which I take particular pride in knowing that I wanted to be an insurance professional in my community. I knew I could build my business in 3 different ways. I've had some exposure to organizations that do lead generation, so I can actually fill my sales funnel directly through lead generation. That worked successfully because I had a good process, and I cared about the people on the other end of the line. I just didn't enjoy it. I prefer seeing people eye to eye, letting them know that I actually care about them. That's where networking, fits in, and I'll circle back on that. And existing relationships, which for me were primarily insurance agents, financial planners that may have referred long-term care insurance to me, some employers that tracked me down that wanted me to continue to support corporate LTC programs. More on that. The reason I did lead generation specifically in life insurance is that it's a shorter sales cycle and there's more upfront revenue. And so I thought in terms of my product mix, I would take the 1 million cup and fill it with my product mix. So life insurance, again, lead generation, shorter sales cycle, more upfront revenue. Those are important things if you're launching a business. Then disability, long-term care, this business still finds me, some Medicare supplement when people ask. And then finally, health insurance. And for me, my primary focus is on businesses at core inception. I'm not waiting for someone else to fail. I'm there right from the beginning to help an organization grow. The red, yellow, and green represents the financial income to the practice. Life insurance, more upfront revenue, little to nothing on an ongoing basis. Long-term care, disability, Medicare supplement, middle of the road, some upfront revenue, some ongoing, and health insurance, a little over a long period of time. And reoccurring revenue, frankly, is what supports a business, okay? 30% of my business is health insurance, 30% is long-term care, disability, 40% life insurance. Thought you'd be interested in sort of a product mix, all right? So my client acquisition strategy, I mentioned lead generation is how I started in life insurance. But really networking is what's driven the majority of my business. I network in different places, and in particular, where I had exposure to lead generation, which is how I could drive life insurance, and I had BNI to help train me on how to be a good networker. My challenge question, and I'm sorry I didn't present it at the end of the first slide, is that I want to develop a new seminar. I've developed a message which I'm going to share with you in more detail that drives to the life insurance conversation in a different way than the traditional model, all right? And I'm going to give you some more background on that. So BNI, a farming ground for networking, Chamber of Commerce, being an insurance professional in my community, exit planning, market-specific networking, where I'm connecting with attorneys and CPAs, to talk about business valuation, driving value, and transition succession planning for businesses. So in each of these areas, I have tools that I can use to market. I can drive Facebook ads for small business activity. I haven't had to, because these things are so prolific, but I know that I could. On the disability, long-term care, I have messages around those things as well. And for me, the ideal sort of client is where these things overlap. A 35 to 45-year-old starting a new business, probably have to set up their first health insurance plan. They're going to need some disability. They probably need some life insurance as well. The traditional model to selling large life insurance is typically a financial planning model. And I am not a financial planner. So I'm not in the typical types of conversations that are going to drive large life insurance sales. My conversation here is not about filling my sales funnel. I've already done that. My conversation is about controlling the outcome, all right? So my growth strategy has changed. Today, it's not networking, it's centers of influence. When I go to network, I'm looking for CPAs, business attorneys, other insurance professionals that need my expertise in the areas that I can deliver. That's no longer networking. That is specifically looking for spheres of influence that are driving my business, and I'm getting 5 to 6 referrals a week. And so those things are working. I just don't get to control what comes to me. That's not a complaint, right? Existing relationships, that looks different 3 years later, right? Where I have 100 group clients and probably 300 personal clients, and those things continue to build momentum as well. And what I'm looking to tackle is a new seminar series. And I would say that for a lot of us, everything we do works, right? The question is what we choose to do. I told you I had experience in these other areas, or at least a training regimen to get me there. I have not done this before, all right? Which is why I'm here asking for your help. So when I thought about, and my friend Dave Burrell helped me with this, and Jen Dalton from Brand Mirror sort of shaped it for me. We talked about things that you can do that relate directly to your business. And we talked about it within his business and working with an organization like mine. And I thought about it as it relates to life insurance. What type of conversation do I really want to have that's going to yield the end result that I'm looking for? And what I really want are people that prioritize meeting responsibilities. And if people prioritize meeting responsibilities, that builds a foundation from which we can then build, right? So instead of having a conversation around need, I'm not interested in selling insurance to people that think they need it. Need is a negative. And I want people to be in a position where they want to meet those obligations. Want is a much more powerful emotion, and driving to want allows us to achieve what I believe to be a framework to have a dialogue. And I'd just like to share, how's my time going? 1 minute. Quick 1 minute story that sort of frames this out, okay? Quick 1 minute story. I'm gonna take my son fishing, right? And I gotta work in the morning. I'm gonna give you the abridged 30-second version. We go out to fish in the morning, and we get there, and he says, hey, I'd like to find some worms. And I brought a little shovel. I said, why don't you dig around that house? He comes back having dug a moat, and said I couldn't find any worms. I look down, there's 2 logs. I pick up the logs, there's 3 worms right there. It's amazing what a little experience gives you, right? So we're fishing, he's catching some fish. I'm catching nothing because I have a lure, a plastic worm. I have 0 chance of catching anything. That's not why I'm there, right? I'm there to spend time with my son. Park ranger comes up 15 minutes later, makes a beeline out on the dock, looks at me and says, "Can I see your fishing license?" My son looks at me, I reach into my pocket, I hand him my fishing license. My son says, "You have a fishing license?" The officer says, "By the looks of it, this thing is freshly minted." And I was like, "Yeah, we would have been here sooner. I had to print it out." And then he starts giving me tips on other places to fish in the area at different times of the year. Officer leaves, my son says, "I can't believe you have a fishing license." I didn't need to have a fishing license. It's a $200 fine. It's a chance to demonstrate to my son that it was the right thing to do. I needed to know the rules and I needed to get it right. And this is what life is all about, presenting us those opportunities to have laid the foundation so that we are reinforcing the values that we have. There are a lot of values, responsibility is one of them. If we do this properly, what it delivers is pride and confidence, the things we get to talk about, right? Did I just share a story with pride and confidence? Absolutely. So here I have a great seminar that drives around that message. I developed the seminar. I got to give it the first time to an organization. It was a home run. I knew I could build my career around it. That was 6 months ago. I've had a lot of things on my plate. It is time to address this challenge. And here's my question. How do I promote my new seminar topic to effectively fill the room on a consistent basis? Thank you very much. I'm David Hillelsohn.
So I have the pleasure of moderating the Q&A. Before I start, I've just received an electric bolt that only half the room has registered for this morning's program. So please download the mobile app for 1 Million Cups. Take 2 seconds, and then put on your reading glasses if you need them to find the app on your phone. And then please register because it matters to the viability of our chapter. So with that, first, David, thank you so much for both the philosophy and for the courage to present. With that, I open to questions. When I recognize you, please say your name and company and keep it short. Tom?
Tom Scheib, Long and Foster. David and I met one day after he started his business, I believe, back in May 17th of 2016. And he had a ton of self-confidence, but no customers. Now look at you. I applaud. So by the way, you could introduce your team.
Right. I did bring my boss, Melissa Hillelsohn. This is the second time she's ever seen me present. The first time was in Vegas.
I thought it was when you proposed to her?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Says that I'm really in sales.
Absolutely. Or she has bad judgment. Could be that.
No. Good.
Jeffrey.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
My name is Jeff Englander. I'm with Zona Systems Cybersecurity. Have you ever talked to professional organizers of seminars?
It's a great question, and I have not. This is my first array into this conversation.
The reason why I suggest that is that there's so many nuances, many of which I don't know. My wife, in her own business, she put one on. It was a big success. It was amazing in how much one seminar took as far as time to get it done.
Yep.
And she said I needed help. That was my suggestion. Don't go it alone.
Thanks.
Tony.
David, how often do you write articles and post them on LinkedIn and Facebook and other areas?
It's a great question. Thank you for that question. My target is once a month to write my own content. And I've been relatively consistent there, but not perfect.
Start doing it once a week and associating one way or another the article into a topic related to the seminar. The reason why is what you'll start doing is you'll build a following that you can now use from a out of left field marketing strategy, using the articles to promote the seminars. So that way what you can do is get people interested, and then you can just start throwing in, oh, by the way, the next seminar is on September 15th. Here's the link to sign up. Because what you'll do is you'll start engaging more of a social activity, but especially not with LinkedIn, and that'll start circling people back and following you. And what you want to do is you want to get more and more people following you or following your company on LinkedIn, so that way you can message them directly about when the seminar is coming up and request that they share to their social media that your event's coming up.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yes, ma'am. Name?
I just want to comment though, and I'm in a lead share with David. David is everywhere. Like, he goes everywhere. He is visible to people, and I think that's hugely important. I just want to commend you, because he's never home, I take it. But
Now the
you're
marriage works
everywhere
well.
you need to.
That's why she had to come here. Thank
That's
you.
not what she told me, by the way.
Aaron, that's number 2.
Sir,
At 3, he's out, I'll be in, and
no
we'll just talk
problem.
about.
yes, sir.
Dave Morrell, U.S. Dance Service. So, David, where, I know about the activity level and how you get your messaging out. Where are the people you're really trying to reach hanging out? Because I have a feeling that your customer base is probably in that messy middle that's not necessarily going to networking events.
Correct, it's a good question. I would say the target audience here, no different than that sphere in that diagram, is 35 to 45. You know, they have younger kids that they're now starting to influence or need to influence before it's too late.
Right.
And so that's my demographic. They are largely either leaders in organizations or small business owners.
But where are they hanging out? I think if we can get to the answer for that question, where are those business owners hanging out that are so busy, and how do you reach them? Where are they hanging out? What are they reading? Because then that goes a long way towards being able to get the message in front of them.
Thanks.
Russ?
Well, you say on a consistent basis, is that monthly, quarterly, biannually? How often do you want to do a seminar all the time?
It's a great question. Hearing that, I would say my target would probably be quarterly, right? As a
So more conferences and so forth, than small little luncheon rooms.
correct.
Okay.
I don't know that I have an exact thought on the ideal size. The presentation that I gave last time was probably around 20 people.
Okay.
And that seemed to be an ideal, intimate audience.
Just small enough you can interact.
Have you talked to your, Jen Dalton-Bryn here, have you talked to your partner groups about doing customer appreciation events where you can speak at their office or in their conference rooms or things like that? Because that might be a good place to start since you already have a relationship.
And can you expand on that when you say partner groups?
Like law firms offer to do a lunch and learn just for their clients where you have similar values as that firm. And they could introduce it and kick it off, but then you could give your talk, and it's not a sales talk, it's really a talk about responsibilities and what that looks like.
Yeah, that would be great. And in fact, the Dulles Chamber would be at the top of that list. I have not done a presentation for them, for that audience.
Tony, then David, and Dan, and this next gentleman, I don't know your name.
Well,
Yeah, not yet, you're 4.
To pick up on what Jen started, a mutual friend of ours, I'm sure here will be giving this advice likely. Angela Zarella beautifully with her husband leveraged every area chamber for their coaching company. If you start joining chambers and offer a topic point, maybe a hot topic point off of your presentation as a 40-minute presentation to the chambers for free, to cycle it through, that will start building an internal base within it in their education programs. They did it brilliantly for years, and now they're running on a track where they're busy every week.
Yep.
I know and understand, and I'm sure you even better than anybody know, when they sit there and you say, "Hi, the insurance guy," everybody in the room does bolts. You can change that to where everyone wants to talk to you because you're cool, because you have something neat to say. You're
Yeah.
not pitching insurance all the time.
perfect.
Back to Dave.
Dave Morrell, U.S. Dance Service. What is your conversion rate going from audience to context to response?
Everyone hear the question in the back?
Yep.
Okay. That was me giving myself time to process that. So I can only look at the one seminar I delivered.
Okay.
Right? And I really only had one target in the room, and I was 100%.
Okay.
Okay? So it's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. And going back to what Tony said, I'm not a conversion type person, right? I'm a relationship person, and we're gonna have to get there together.
Right.
But it's a good question.
Understood. It's just a matter of how are you going to boil it down? The other, with the thought that's driving it is, do you have enough people in your immediate area that you would be able to fill up every seminar in your location, or do you need to branch out across other Northern Virginia areas over the quarters in order to be able to effectively reach the right pockets?
It's a great question. I think when you have a message that resonates, it does draw, but over time, everything gets saturated. So I would think there's a diminishing return over time that if it worked, you continue to replicate it successfully. But I'm anxiously excited to be able to answer that question a year from now. So thank you for the question.
Dan?
Dan Allen, Allikai Solutions. You're trying to fill a room, which in itself can be very challenging. You're trying to get busy people to come to a scheduled event in a set location that may or may not work for their personal life. So I would consider digital delivery options as well, you know, webinars. I understand that insurance is generally, you're going to be regional, right? Because you can only provide within your licensed area products that are available to you. But still, the social networking on LinkedIn, Facebook, I don't know if you're on Facebook.
We should be friends.
but fabulous regional targeting capabilities. Get a business page going there, start getting your word out, and then also build some vignettes for yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you different? Because you are different from any other insurance provider I've ever seen. I think that's special, and if people can see that first, then you're going to hook them like those fish. And they'll say, well, maybe he's worth spending some more time with.
I love that fish tie-in. That was strong. Thank you for that. I am licensed around the country, and the reason I am is so that I can leverage digital a little bit more. There is something intimate about the conversation, but I am able to drive a lot of that in advance. So I really appreciate that.
I just want to know if you have aligned, with Dex Energy, I'm sorry, if you've aligned with the Small Business Association, if that would be a resource for you, because they help everybody start their own business, basically.
So it's a great question. I have been in for counseling to see the counselors. I have not presented within that group, although I have talked to the organizer of meetings about getting on that schedule.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why?
So, to reference the digital or webinar tiled site presentation, have you considered going to your you said you have tremendous success growing individual clients, group clients. If you offered your seminar as a webinar, ran maybe 2 or 3 sessions, offering it free to everyone within your existing client base, positioning it to say, hey, this is a great new topic that I'm offering. Can I come and give this presentation to your firm or to the partners of your firm? That way you can leverage them saying, we have an idea of what this presentation is. They already know you, so they're more likely to be able to help you set up a new seminar in a different location, and you might find business you hadn't thought of.
I love it. And picking back on the number of friends that I have here today, and thank you all for coming. It's that same thing, which is
Checks in the mail?
I just need a little bit. I need some feedback from you. It could be a big help. Thank you for that.
Steve Smith. I own and operate a Sandler training franchise here in Northern Virginia. To me, the constraints of a 6 to 8 minute, I know that means everything needs to be condensed, but to me, back to the point of differentiation, seemed like a great one, talking about taking responsibility and that being a key construct there. And I think as you're doing the seminar up front, really laying that out as the ingredient that's going to get people interested is going to be a key there. And just, that marketing material just to get people to come into there. I would focus on that it's not the risk or insurance of the old model, but it's really that taking responsibility. I think it's a powerful move.
Thank you.
I've got Jen, this gentleman, and Donnell.
Are you envisioning this being a revenue stream at some point? Or are you doing free seminars? If someone called you and said, we love you, we want you to speak on the stage for $10,000 about taking responsibility because our clients agree with that philosophy? Like, where do you want this to be 2 years from now versus just a free seminar? Not just, but.
So my vision is that it is seminar selling, but because I believe so much in the message, and that it is a message that is not being articulated as frequently as it should. If there's an organization that said, we love that message, and can you refine it for our audience, then I would have to say yes, knowing that my revenue opportunity isn't gonna be product, it's gonna be message. And so I would need to be open to that, but that's not where my vision is. My vision is simply, I've been to a lot of seminars. Traditionally, they're a financial planning message of sorts, and what people need is someone they can trust.
Sure.
Mike Williams, growth coach in Northern Virginia. So David, it kind of falls into what you were saying, starting with the end in mind. So what does success look like for you with this endeavor? Because you've got to, even if it's 1 out of 20 or 2 out of 20, you've got to leverage your time and energy versus return, right? So you really want to look at it, if you're going to do this quarterly, how much business or what kind of a conversion are you looking for, so that you can now say, this is viable, this is not viable. So maybe noodling that a little bit more.
Thank you. So when I started with lead generation, I mapped out conversion rates and average revenue per sale. I did those. I never once thought about what break even was. I only thought about the high end. And that's the only number I ever remembered. And it would probably be the same here. I just know it works.
Right.
So because I know it works, numbers are always important, but I know that the revenue return is going to be there. And over time, I hope to be able to refine that more and more. The message isn't perfect yet.
Right.
I know I have the framework to get it there, including marketing messages, structure, in touch points along the way, which I know our coffee sponsor, Mark Silverman, does very well.
Darnell.
So a couple of things. Number one, I love what you're doing, and I love why you're doing it most importantly. So there's a couple of ways that I recommend you moving forward. One is you're extremely funny in person, and you're also funny online, right? And I think you have a gift in using things that are happening, that are going on in the news, to bring awareness to who you are and what you do. And so I say use your humor and what's going on in the world to sell the message to go to your conference online. And then when you're looking at moving forward with your message, target those audiences that have your customer. What I mean by that is, if the chamber has your customer, then go there, and you're going to have to physically sell this in the beginning. And I also recommend finding those organizations that already have your customer there and getting on their calendar and presenting. And so initially I would do that, and then build your conference or your seminar with the audience that you generate from that. That way they can tell a friend. Lastly, you got to have fun with this, because it's going to be frustrating. Sometimes you're going to have 50 people in the audience, and then sometimes you're going to have one. And so you're going to, in your presentations, you're going to have to give that same presentation from 50 to 1. So it's going to be frustrating sometimes in doing that, but keep your confidence up and keep it going.
Thank you.
So we have a number of people who are here for the first time. And what I just heard was such amazing thoughts and ideas from the group. And that's repeated every week. So if you're here for the first time, this was an amazing set of questions. And this is what it's like at every 1 million cups that I've attended. So to the group, I thank you, because I learned. And I'm sure when you listen to the tapes, you're just going to love what you're hearing. Again, thank you, my man. You're a friend and a great presenter. Something Of questions, or
For
should
the
we go
new
around?
people.
Yeah. Anyone else have questions that they would like to ask? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Say your
I'm
first
Rose
name.
Lynn,
Yep.
Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. One thing I can't help wondering is, have you thought about now or before too long, aiming at a younger crowd? And I know you said 35 to 45 is when people start to get family, that's when they know you better. I have a daughter, and she and her boyfriend are both like, I've made her go to a financial planner as soon as she had her first 401k. And her boyfriend is the same way right now. And I guess one of my personal missions is to get kids thinking about that early. I started out with a financial planner when I was 27. I had nothing but maybe my first house with a big mortgage and but once you get into the system early, your awareness only grows, and that's when you build loyalty. So it's just a thought about aiming at a younger target, at least at some point.
Thank you for that. I did attend a young professionals event, and when I got home, my wife said, "Where were you?" And I said, "I was at a young professionals event." She said, "Why?" I said, "That hurts." She said, "Do they need mentors?" I think it's a great idea and message. Part of it is, for my own thought, are they ready and receptive to the conversation? And are they in a position where I'm able to help them? If they're open to the conversation, part of it is building a path over time. So if the conversation starts at 25 or 27 and they're ready to sit down and have a conversation at 30 or 35, that's perfect as well. My reaction is trying to figure out, again, going back to what Donnell said, where are they? And are they in a position where I can transition that into some form of conversion? And so I think in my head, I've identified that these 35 to 45-year-olds who are starting new businesses very often, starting new families, that is the transition time. But if I can push that younger, I certainly will. And thank you for continuing to keep my mind open to those things.
Yes, please.
I have a daughter who's 27, and she makes about $200,000 a year. And I would like to have her go and talk to somebody about financial planning, that she refuses to. Because she's had so many friends that have talked to financial planners and invested incorrectly and lost a lot of money. But just to say where they hang out, I know that every weekend she and her fiance are at wineries. So that might be a place to look. I don't know.
Thank you for that. And I think, again, part of what people look for from me is access to financial planners that have a similar philosophy as me. And they look for me to make those types of connections that are going to be a good match. So, again, I've actually spoken to a financial planner about partnering to do that sort of messages. And again, I believe that that's the way to get to that audience. It's just, I think, while this message resonates, it's a touch different.
Did you sort of question?
I just had and it follows nicely on the statement you just made. Thinking about where in your business is it better to be proactive and taking responsibility, and how does that show up? For me, I think about branding and the responsibility of doing that thoughtfully and intentionally. I definitely love the idea of finding 1, 2, or 3 people to do a panel and have a moderator talking about this broader topic, because it's a new conversation to some degree. It would be helpful to have more people help you get butts in seats versus just you by yourself.
Yeah.
So I might even think about alternating every other month with a panel with new people, and then your talk, and then a panel, and then your talk. But how do you make this part of the ongoing dialogue, and reframing it, insurance and other things too, not as a burden, but as a positive responsibility?
Right. It's Anne, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think about the actual presentation, and I have 3 case studies at the end, right? And they hit 3 target ages, and what you reminded me is I have to add that 20-year-old. That's really what it says, is that I'm already hitting these 3 stages, why aren't I hitting this one and building the foundation from there? And so that's, I'll get there. Thank you.
On a very narrow level, on the seminar that you delivered already, how long did you, how many?
35 minutes.
35 minutes. So I think you have to continue to refine your product based on your targets. And picking up on the theme of where people hang out, how you deliver that can happen in many different ways, even in an automated way. And it's a lot of time for someone to devote if you're marketing to them individually. It's different if they're coming into an organization. If you're coming into that organization and delivering it at noon for whomever shows up, there's less investment on that person's part than some. And so therefore your delivery methods and your product refinement, I think, is core.
Well, and again, going back to Jeff's original message, which is around people that do this professionally, it's all about the follow-up, right? So in some organizations, you're just giving a message and the follow-up is loose. You know, what's my ask? You know, what is that takeaway? Which may be a little different when I'm in complete control of the environment.
Any other questions? Sir.
So people have a emotional tie to money, right? I was invited to an event quoted as a Christmas party, and then I was trapped in a room talking about money, right? And it pissed me off, and I never wanted to deal with that person again because I felt like I was being lied to. And so understand that when you're talking about money, it's emotional, but at the same time, I believe the way that, you know, I talked about, you know, you being funny before, if you make it thought-provoking and fun and where people can grasp it, I think that it'll resonate with people, and they'll come and find you, and they'll invite their friends to it. So
I feel like I need to end with funny. This is how I talk about that, and it's something that Jen helped me with. There are 3 things our parents don't talk to us about: death, money, and politics. So our ability to actually develop a philosophy is challenged because it was never handed down to us by our parents. And this is where I think we can start from a clean slate to say, you're not supposed to know anything. Right? You're supposed to be apprehensive because we haven't built the foundation yet. And if we build the right foundation, and then you're taking steps, you're able to pass it on in a way that maybe our parents didn't. And that's, I think, where it becomes such a powerful message. Thanks for bringing that up.
Great.
Strong finish.
David, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Sir, did you have a question?
I think
or
Don
we
will
move
have
on?
one more question for me.
Our very last question.
yes. So the final question, I know you're ready for this because you hear us ask the same question every time at the end of all of our events. So what can our 1 Million Cups audience do for you?
So it's a great question, which I have heard before, and it's one that I gave thought to, and I would say hold me accountable. Ask me how it's going. Let's drive to that successful outcome together. So if you can hold me accountable, have you launched the seminar, or how are you promoting it? That's how you can really help. Thanks again, everybody.
So we haven't gone around the room and introduced ourselves yet, and let's do that quickly and limit what you say. Mark, can we start with you and we'll work the back room forward? Congratulations. Oh,
Hold on, before we get started with that,
It's okay.
Mark, before we get started, I get the honor of making the super presentation. And thank you so much for having the guts to stand up in front of a smart group of people and seriously talk about your business. And I hope that you learned a lot. And
Thank you.
Use that cup.